The Kaleidoscope cane is a really fun. It can be random, or it can be very much planned. Here's some different ones I have. This is a pretty typical Kaleidoscope cane, and what you're going to notice is that Kaleidoscope canes can be round or square, depending on the number of triangles you use to build it up. And the basis of a Kaleidoscope cane is to form triangles, and then those can be grouped in just about any way you like. You can see how regrouping them into fours and then pushing that together, or adding some filler in between triangles, would make a nice cane. You could even group it like so and make more of a butterfly type cane. That would be nice. Here's one made with 6 triangles instead of 4, and so it's going to turn out to be more of a round cane than square. The one that we are going to focus on building today is a square kaleidoscope, and we're going to use some leftover canes to make it. So I hope you have some leftover pieces from the basic canes section of the course, because that's what we're going to be using to build this one. So the canes I've selected to build this kaleidoscope cane are the leaf cane that we made in basic canes. I've got some jelly roll left over from the jelly roll section. I've got a Skinner blended plug from the Skinner blending course, and I've even flattened it, so we'll do that together. I also have some bullseye canes that we shaped into triangles. We used these when we made the flower cane. We used these for packing. And then I just have some miscellaneous little canes that are greatly reduced, and we'll talk about that when the time comes. Here's some extra jelly roll. So in order to get started, we're going to start with the leaf piece first. It's going to be the base, and the whole time we're working on kaleidoscope canes, we're thinking about building up triangles. So if you're using canes that already exist, the first thing you'll want to do is start warming them with your hands. And the way I warm canes is just to start in reducing them, just like I would if I were reducing a cane just for that purpose. But what happens is the heat from your hands just starts moving through the clay and making it fresh again. You don't want to start with a cane that's been laying around for a while without waking it up properly and helping it getting going. So take some time, and once your cane kind of starts to move and it feels like you really could be reducing it, then you'll know that you're ready to go. This leaf cane has some scrap on the end, so I'm just going to go ahead and take that scrap off. All right, now that looks good. I feel like this cane is warmed up enough. It's a little sticky. It's not that old of a cane, so I think it's ready to go. The next thing I'm going to do is, this is already a triangle, so it's a really good start. All we have to do is build it up into a larger triangle. So I'm going to kind of fill out this rounded area here with some of my triangle shaped bullseye. And this one is not quite as long, so let's go ahead and reduce it to fit better. There's no real science to this. You can be as random or as planned as you want to be, but the thing is, you might as well keep all your canes the same length as you add them in, so that you have the most workable cane at the end. You don't have a section that's missing a part. So I'm just going to snug this right up under that leaf like so, as tightly as I can, and then here I'm going to push this little triangle point right on over to the side of the leaf. Like so. And so now we've just extended our triangle shape out a little wider. I'm going to keep pushing that because I still have a little gap there. Okay, next what I did was I took some of this Skinner blended plug and I flattened it like so. So let me show you how I did that. you want to get this one warmed up again too, so that it doesn't crack when you start smashing it. Get it nice and warm so that it starts moving on its under your hand pressure. And it's already starting to reduce. So this is about a 1/2 inch thick. I think that'll be a good place to start. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and take an acrylic roller and flatten this as evenly as I can. This is getting in my way over here. My sleeve's catching on it. Okay, flatten one side and then the other. If you want to, you could run this through your clay conditioning machine, probably on the thickest setting. You don't want to smash it too flat because we do want it to take up a little bit of room inside the cane. I feel like this is a little too wide, so I'm going to stretch it. That looks much better. Mine is about 5/8 of an inch wide. So let's cut a straight end on one end to start. And then this piece is going to go right to the bottom of the little triangle and as far up the side as it will go. So how about if I lay my cane down and just line this right up to the bottom of that triangle. Let me show you this way. That looks good. And then we'll just trim this to the same length as the rest of the cane. So now I've got 3 pieces. Now you can make a kaleidoscope cane and mimic any shapes by using solid colors of clay. But if you use old canes like we're doing here, you'll see that you'll get just really dramatic, a dramatic look because you'll have all that detail just packed into one cane. And it's a really great way to use up leftover canes. All right, now I'm reducing a little bit of this jelly roll that I had left over from the previous section of the course. This was the jelly roll that we made with a Skinner blended sheet in purple Primo. And I want to reduce this so that I can fit a piece right up on top of this blue and alongside the leaf cane. So I kept my jelly roll large on one end in case I wanted to use some bigger pieces. So I'm just working at reducing this one end. I don't like to reduce my canes entirely because I might need a larger piece at some point and then I'll have it. Okay, let's see how this is going to fit. It's a little bit thick, but I think what we're going to happen is we're going to kind of smash it into place. So I'm going to cut a straight end down here and line that up with that smashed blue bullseye or jelly roll that we put in there, and then trim the back off to match the rest of the cane. All right, so there we have, here's what we're looking like right now. Now it is sort of not a true triangle, but it's triangular enough. So this is going to be fine. Now I have this ridge of my leaf cane sticking up, so I'm going to go ahead and put some pressure on my jelly roll to stick it in there real well and to kind of make it conform more to the shape of our triangle cane. And you can see that by smashing it, that went pretty well. Now the last piece I'm going to fit on is another one of my little triangle bullseyes up here on the top, and I've got another piece of that, and it's about the right length, but we have some scrap down here that's going to have to come off. So let's reduce it some more so that when I take that scrap off the end, it'll still be a good size. So reducing this triangle cane style just by squeezing the base and turning and squeezing some more. And I want to go ahead and see. So that's going to sit right up on top, and it's plenty long. So I'm going to seat that up here on top of the leaf and the bullseye. And I'm using quite a bit of pressure to set it down, and now I'm going to trim the end. Okay, so now we have, it's kind of a wonky triangle, but it is still a triangle. And we can really work with that in making a kaleidoscope cane. I'm just gonna make sure all my little tips are pushed down. That looks good. All right, now the next step is to start reducing this down smaller. And so if we look at our finished cane, what we're talking about is just making this much right here. This actually has 8 sections of triangles, so if you can just focus on one section, that's what we're going for. So this needs to be reduced, and we're going to reduce this triangle style by pushing on the base and flipping it 1/3 turn and pressing some more. We're going to reduce this down. Right now my triangle is about 1 1/8 inches wide at the base, and I think I'll take this down to till it's about 3/4 of an inch wide at the base. So that's what we're shooting for. If you want to fast forward, if you want to reduce at your own speed and fast forward, that's fine, or you can just stay with me and we'll reduce together. At this point, if you hadn't warmed all your separate canes sufficiently, this is where you would be running into trouble. You would start to see clay cracking, maybe, especially if you used pretty old canes. Most canes can be revived, no matter how old they are, but if you don't revive them sufficiently, then when you go to reduce, they'll kind of start falling apart, and you might notice cracking on the outside, or even on the inside there could be cracking where you don't see it. All right, let's do a size check and see where we're at. Ooh, I'm under an inch, but I think I want to go a little bit more. I'm stretching it now. Don't forget to, if you're stretching, don't forget to pinch your ends back down to the same size. When you grab the ends and stretch, wherever your fingers are, don't exactly stretch like the middle of the cane. All right, now I'm giving this, laying it down on the surface, my work surface, and then just kind of pulling and stretching, and that will make my sides really flat, which is what I want next, because we're going to section this triangle in half and stick it back together. So mine is down to 3/4 of an inch, and it's about 7 inches long, so I'm going to cut mine in half at 3 1/2. And now when we look at this, it's been cut in half. We need to regroup it into another triangle. And this is the cool part about kaleidoscope canes. You could regroup it like this, or you could regroup it like this. You could probably even regroup it like this. And any of those shapes would be great. You know what, I'm going to go with that regrouping since it'll be different than this one. A little bit different. So decide how you want to put your cane back together, and make sure that it looks like a mirror image on this end. It should look like a mirror image on the other end too. I'll trim my scrap away and make sure. Ooh, I lost out on a little bit of my My little bullseye is stuck back in there, but I'm just going to go ahead and use it anyway, like so. And then pinch all your corners together down the length of the cane so that the two canes are really bonding together. Now this is kind of not exactly a triangle shape, but I think you can envision how this is going to be my top point and these are going to be my bottom points, and it's still we can still form this into a triangle. And so that's what we're going to do again. So with my top points facing up, I'm going to start pushing downward on my outside points to force them down to my work surface and make a new triangle. Go back along your top and make sure that gap, that seam is closed, and then give some more pushing down. This may take several passes back and forth to get those sides to actually go down, and then go back up across the top as well. And so now here's how it looks. It looks much more like a triangle now that the two sides are down. All right, so we want to start reducing this new triangle and making it longer and smaller so that we can section it and regroup it into our intricate kaleidoscope cane. Now I'm going to go for a 4-sided kaleidoscope cane because my cane is very short. And if you want a 4-sided cane, you just cut it into 4 sections. If you want a 6-sided cane, you're going to cut it into 6 sections. And I think that if you want a 6-sided cane, you would want the cane right here to be at least 12 inches long, so that when you cut it into 6 sections, you'd have at least 2 inches to work with in each section. When we get shorter than 2 inches, it makes it a little bit harder to deal with. So I'm just going to go with a 4-sided cane, and you just need to decide if you're going to go with the 4 or the 6. All right, mine looks really solid now. It feels really solid, and I'm at about 3/4 of an inch wide at my base, and my cane is 6 inches long. So I'm going to trim my ends to see what it looks like. I'm just going to take off the least amount I can. Oh, really pretty. That's going to look really good. Really nice. So I'm going to trim both ends. Love that. Okay, and then I'm going to pull this back. Since I trimmed my ends, I still want to go for that full 6 inches. So I'm going to just stretch it a tiny bit. Okay. Now I'm going to cut mine in half to 3, and then I'll cut those in half to 1 1/2 each. So I've got 4 sections. So cut yours at 4 or 6, whatever you want to do. And now I'm ready to regroup mine. And that is really going to be pretty. Okay, so I have mine regrouped, and you can see some negative spaces there that we're going to have to deal with. We could just treat this like a square and start pushing and forcing all the pieces together, but sometimes when you do that, you're going to get stuff a little out of control. The clay is going to decide where it fills in gaps instead of you getting to decide. So what I like to do is make some filler for these negative areas, and I'm going to start with the middle first. I have just the tiniest pieces of some round cane that I'm going to use, and I'm going to use this to fill in the middle. This is about 1.5 inches here. And you want to just look at that center negative space and think about how big of a piece you need to fill that in. You could fill it in with a solid color or with a bullseye or a jelly roll, something round. And you generally need to go smaller than you think, smaller in diameter. So I'm going to cut off 1.5 inches of this. I just have a piece left over. It's a light blue in the middle and dark blue on the outside. I had that left over from the butterfly or from the lace cane we made earlier. So what you want to do is set this on top, on the top tip of one of your triangles. Okay, then I'm going to take my opposite triangle and sandwich that tip in there, like so. And I better trim this a little bit so I can actually set it down flat. Okay, so I've got that sandwiched in there. Put some pressure on it so it sticks. All right, now take your other two sides and push them toward that piece as well. And that will fill in your negative space in the center. Okay, and there's how it looks now. Now we still have these negative spaces to deal with, and they are triangle shaped. You could take any cane that you have and shape it into a triangle, or you could take a solid color coordinating clay and put it in there. I think I'm going to take some of this leftover flattened. This is the piece that we used earlier. We flattened that Skinner bullseye, Skinner jelly roll into a flat piece. I'm going to take my thumb and push a sharp point on one of its edges. And flip it over and do it again on the other side, using your thumb to force it down to your work surface. Let me turn this around, maybe you can see that better. Okay, this is the edge that I'm flattening, and I'm just really pushing it down toward my work surface to form a point along one edge. I'm trying to leave this edge thicker. So here you can see what I'm doing is I'm going for a really thin teardrop shape. Let's do that one more time, really get that pointed. I'm going to need 4 pieces of this at 1.5 inches, so I'm going to need at least 6 inches of this flattened. And I'm just barely there. All right. So what I would do now is stand this up and just push this down into that open crevice, like so, and then trim it. Okay, and then go to this opposite corner here. I'm going to straighten this out a bit and push it down in as far as you can. Maybe kind of open the 2 triangles and then push them back together to get that as far in there as you can. And then trim it. Okay. And then do another side. Kind of open those up and force it down in there. Then pull them back toward that filler piece and trim it. And then do this last one. Open those up a bit. Force this inside. And trim. All right, so now we have all those negative spaces are filled. So now what I'm going to do is push on my triangles on opposite sides, like north and south and then east and west. Try to get those really, really going solid. Okay, now these are sticking up a bit high, so I need to decide if I'm going to force them to fill that shape or if I'm going to trim them off square. Let's squeeze on this a little bit more, see if we make sure they're all seated and there's not empty spaces in the middle. Now let's kind of pull on our corners toward that filler space, that filler shape, and see how that shapes out. And I'm still left with quite a bit of that sticking out. So I think what I'm going to do is take my blade and shave those pieces off more square. Oops, I shaved a little bit through my triangle and I didn't want to, so I'm just going to put that back on there. Okay, and then turn it. I think what I'll do is just shave one bit at a time so that I'm not cutting through my triangle. I'm trying to shave this off square, level with the top, and not at an angle. So there we go. All right, nice. Okay, now at this point, you could reduce this cane as much as you want to, or you could use it as is. I'm going to leave mine large enough so that we can take this into the next course section and design a key fob with it. So I'll see you there.